Hello and welcome to the second annual Gooners versus Cancer Pod-a-thon. This one, 27 hours. We will make up the 6 minutes that we're late to you, thanks to Andy Rhodes, who can't figure out his internet and has already screwed this up. I believe he is on the side of Cancer, but we're going to do our best to kick Cancer here, starting off in an amazing way. Welcome to the Gooners Pod and Gooners versus Cancer.
Once upon a time, way back when there were only 9,000 Arsenal podcasts, 5 young men from various backgrounds, an Irish kid with a horrible haircut, a young Jewish nerd who hadn't discovered food yet, a child from Hemel Hempstead who didn't want to be English no more, a handsome advertising magnate with impeccable judgment, and a young Mexican AC Milan fan hatched a plan to take over the world of Arsenal podcasts. But then these boys became men. Jared, Mikey, Eoin, Magic, and Andy. And the rest, my friends, is history. And now, all these years later, you tune in every so often to hear their incredible takes, their football knowledge, and their sensual advice. But now, it's gone too far. You, our fans, are at long last witness to season
7.
Welcome to the Gooners Pod.
Hello and welcome to the Gooners Podcast Pod-a-thon, second annual Pod-a-thon. I got some sleep last night. I'm ready to go. I got a whole case of Red Bull next to me, and we're going to have some fun over the next 27 hours because it's not going to be just me on a big screen. We have an outstanding guest to help kick things off in just a minute. Here's how this podcast is going to work. We are raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, which is our cause to help kick blood cancers like leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma. You can go to goonersvcancer.com. You have an explanation and a breakdown of this entire podcast, of our entire campaign, and you can donate right on that website directly to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. When you donate, you will get raffle tickets. Raffle tickets will be used not only later in the summer for a raffle, which you'll be entered into, but to get a very special prize draw every hour on the hour during this 27-hour podcast. So if you get your donations in early, you'll be able to participate in as many, up to all of the prize draws as you can. We're going to be giving away Ruth Beck art prints like these. We're going to be giving away new Arsenal kits like, well, I don't have one of the new ones with me, but we're going to be giving away new Arsenal kits. We're going to be giving away signed memorabilia. And the grand prize at the end is going to be a new home shirt signed by Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Tomiyasu, along with a picture of Tomiyasu straining his hamstring when he was signing the shirt, which you can either choose to get or not. So go to goonersvcancer.com, make your donation as early as possible to be entered in as many draws as possible. And we're going to get this kicked off with our first guest in just a second. He's putting something away. But we're waiting on Andy, who's having some technical problems. But why wait on Andy when you can bring in the best right back in the history of Arsenal Football Club, probably in the history of the sport? Mr. Lee Dixon.
That's too much.
My middle name is too much. I mean, as you can see. I mean, your punditry for NBC Sports, by the way, is so good that the primary play-by-play commentator had to leave the entire sport. Welcome back to the pod, Lee. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me back. And I have one question for you. Why have you added 3 hours on the end? 24. 24 is a good number.
Well, here's the thing. I was trying to figure out when to start and end the podcast. And when you do a 24-hour podcast, it starts and ends at the same time. Did you know that?
I can work that one out.
Yeah. So when prime time in the UK, which tends to be where more than 50% of our viewers come from, is usually from about 8 to 11. And it occurred to me that if we stop tomorrow at 7:59 or 8 o'clock, we're missing all of that just juicy, fun time. So that's why I went to 27 hours. Also, I'm just a glutton for punishment, and that's what happens. So I think we have Andy trying to get in here. So
he's paying a George Graham fine, by the way, Andy, for being late. Obviously.
He is. We're
£10 to the charity. £10 to the charity.
People are going to want to hear from Lee Dixon, but they're going to end up hearing Lee Dixon castigating and punishing. And you can throw him up against the wall to tell him what this pod-a-thon means, much like your teammates threw you up against the wall.
Let's just put it this way. You arranged this for me to be on at 8 o'clock, and you're here and I'm here. So at least he could do would be to get here for 8 o'clock. This
is a non-negotiable. I mean, he's going to be doing the Barca podcast. I'll be paying him to do it, but he'll be doing it later this season, I'm sure. So, so we have a friend of you and mine, of course. Darren is in the chat, engaged to a Spurs fan. Not sure that you want to really be publicizing that, but we still love you anyway. So let's start off. Congratulations.
Yeah,
you are a grandfather. This is the first time?
First, yeah. My daughter, Olivia, had baby George, who she's a bigger Arsenal fan than I am. And so you can guess who she named a little boy after. She knew she was having a little boy and loved the name George based on the fact she...
It could be, honestly, it could be a number of people.
Well, it could be
Armstrong. It could be Charlie. It could be...
But if you imagine when she grew up starting to watch Arsenal in the early 90s, she was born in 1990. So from then onwards, it was obviously she was about 5 or 6. She was a George Graham fan, even though I was forcing her. Oh, there he is.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
You are in so much trouble. Not from me, but from Lee grew up. He grew up in the George Graham era, and what you've just done is not okay.
I'll pay the fine.
We're just negotiating how much you've got to pay, but it's going to go up. It's going to go up. The angrier I get.
Sorry.
You might just have to give him the thing instead of the thing that you have instead of that. But I'm sorry.
So baby George was born. She had a bit of a long labour, bless her, and she gave birth literally as England was scoring last night, the winning goal in the Euros. So it was kind of one of those moments where we weren't obviously at the hospital. She had a long labour. She was having a C-section. She delivered the baby, and we got a text message virtually straight afterwards saying baby George has been born. So he's doing really well.
Was that one of the best 5-minute stretches of your life? I mean, other than maybe May 26th, 89, or I mean, maybe you're probably obligated to say it's more special than that, but this is complete. I don't know if you're old enough yet to be a granddad, but I certainly am. So I'm old enough if my kids really did the wrong thing. Yeah. I've got a 21 and an 18-year-old, so I'm technically old enough, but I'd like another 5 years, and then we'll start getting into it.
Well, it's a weird feeling because it's completely different than the feeling you have when you have your own kids, because there's a certain amount of freedom to enjoy the possibility of being able to spoil them virtually all of the time, and give them back when they get tired. So
that's what I've always heard, and obviously I've seen that with my mother and my wife's parents. I mean, they're so much more involved than I remember them being with me.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going into the hospital tomorrow to see him for the first time, and I will be. He's 8 pounds 9 ounces, so he's quite a big baby because my daughter's quite petite, and so I'm going to go in tomorrow and check his. I've said to her I'm going to check his feet out. I'm going to try and encourage him tomorrow to get that left foot going a little bit earlier than I got mine going.
You gotta get.
I never
get him a little Ginola doll to like throw up on and stuff. Yeah. Will he have more than just a head like Andy does?
Yeah,
just a bloodied head.
Yeah, have you got your camera literally on your chin?
I know. Since I got a new laptop, it just
you just got to tilt it down a bit and go like that.
Hold on a second.
Because you look,
or just stand up and crouch like they do when they're taking the picture at the beginning of a football match.
I should do that.
Or just do that for the entire 27 hours.
Congratulations, Lee. I know I jumped in on that story. And sorry I'm late. So the internet went out, and here I thought I had like unplugged the router and was giving it a minute, and I came upstairs. My wife went downstairs and plugged it back in, and so there was just Christmas vacation moment.
Speaking of naming babies, naming dogs, you were telling me before, Lee, before we went on air during the what we're going to call the Andy delay, about another funny story about naming this one of a dog, I believe. I thought our viewers might enjoy hearing that one.
Well, yeah, I got,
and then we'll get to Arsenal.
Yeah, the my friend who teaches Pilates now, I went to do some Pilates with her, and she works from a studio in a house, and obviously her husband goes to work, and she has clients in doing the Pilates, and she's got this dog call, and this dog came out, and I said, "Oh, what's the dog called?" And she went, "Brady," and I just presumed like he would, because she's English, and I said, "Oh, named after Liam," and she went, "Liam who?" And I went, "No, Liam Brady, the dog," and she went, "Oh,
Liam Brady, the dog."
I don't know, and I went, "Oh," because he said my husband, and I know her husband, so I said Philip named him, so I went, all right, I'll ask Philip then. So I saw Philip and I said, "Oh, brilliant. I didn't know you were an Arsenal fan." And he was mortally offended and went, No, it's Tom Brady. And I went, "Oh, not Liam Brady." He goes, "No." And I didn't know he was a Tottenham fan. So I went, he goes, "I'm a Tottenham fan." So I went, "Oh, so Liam obviously wouldn't work." So anyway, I go back for more Pilates lessons, and I start calling the dog Liam to wind his wife up and obviously him up, because it will get back. Oh, Lee was calling the dog Liam. So I changed the name from Brady to Liam. So then he changed the name from Brady to Tom. So he now calls his own dog Tom in order to stop me calling him Liam. It's just like, so I've won whatever happens because I've made him change his dog's name.
Yeah, that counts as a win. I want to first say thanks and also bring up something very important when it comes to donations on this podcast. First of all, thank you to Vinny for this very, very kind and very generous super chat. Says, "Mike, I love the work that you do to fight against cancer. Sadly, I have to fight the bastard every day, and it's giving me a beating at the moment. Vinny, we are all here in your corner, man, rooting for you. And please do keep fighting. And of course, a comment for Lee. You're a wonderful player. Great work getting invoiced." I'm going to try to figure out how to turn that into a joke, but I'm pretty sure he'd be getting involved.
Yeah.
And Lee has, in fact, since very, very early on in our charity and surely with charitable efforts, Arsenal and otherwise, prior to me and concurrent with me, has always been an incredibly generous person in giving your time, your effort, your money in shipping supplies, and your and your expertise with scissors and tape, which we've learned about in a previous podcast.
Yeah.
What I do want to say, though, is if you are inclined to donate for the stream, please do so by going directly to goonersvcancer.com. The one thing about a super chat, which we normally are honored and shocked to get, because why would somebody give money to us for what we're saying? In this case, we know it's a donation for the charity. Please give it straight to goonersvcancer.com going forward, because Google through YouTube does take a substantial amount of those super chats. And so again, I want to be very, very appreciative of that. But if we can have the ones going forward in there, I'll be seeing the donations as they come in. And by the way, prior to the show starting, we had already gained about $800 of donations. Last year, we got $5,000 for the entirety of the podcast terms. So we're well on pace. Remember, the earlier you get them in, the more prize draws you have a chance to win. Again, we're still going to get to Arsenal, but I think Andy's just went and got something that he wants to talk to you about, Lee, because he knows about one of your non-Arsenal passions.
Yeah, so I had and this is for everyone, I have two of them. I had the fortunate pleasure, God, how long ago was this, Mike? Probably like
a year ago
now. I was doing an online workout with Lance Armstrong and started having a conversation with him. Towards the end of our conversation, I mentioned this charity, and he just said to me, whatever you need, I'm in your corner to support it. So about a month ago, he sent me some signed kits.
Cool.
Yeah, from back in the day.
Did he need to put that into an envelope, that last one, or did you just put it in a mailbox and it gets there?
You know what was strange was when I was mailing him stuff, going to the
please don't tell us what you meant.
Like going to the post office and then like mailing it to his home address. Like first the fact that he shared it with me, but then it was like you go to the post office to put Lance Armstrong on the letter. Yeah. Right, and then to get it,
I've had the same issue with Lee and his teammates. I'm like, yeah, I can't believe I'm receiving and mailing things.
No, but for me though, like it was just that one extra bit of weird that you're at the post office. Where
that's true.
He's an employee, and now they all hate him. I guess I don't know. But anyway, we've got these two signed kits that we're gonna put up for auction, and Lance said that, Mike, once we get in the middle of this, he'll retweet, Instagram post, whatever we need. I could just shoot him a text and he'll share and follow. So
yeah, I mean, obviously Lance Armstrong, pretty bipolar as far as what people think of him. Some people still look at his effort and his intention and what he does for charity. Other people will forever look at him otherwise. And whether you feel one way or the other, I do think his commitment to cancer charities, however he achieved his fame and however he achieved his athletic success, or whatever you believe and feel about him, he's always really done as much as he possibly could for cancer, for obvious reasons. So we just got to figure out the best way to do that, because I don't want to put it in the normal kind of Gooner raffle that we have 10 things to bid on, because you can never really tell how much is being driven by any one particular item. So we'll have to talk about that. But Lee, are putting you on the spot a little bit, but are you a Lance fan or what are you?
I was a big Lance follower, and obviously as you talked about, that you can sit and chat over the controversy and the being in court and the lying and all of the things that went on, but ultimately he's a supreme competitor, and what he's done for cancer charities himself, is extraordinary. And so, people make mistakes. He made a couple of them, and I'm sure he's owned up to them now. But ultimately, we're here to raise money for the cancer charity, and anything that we can use for that means, then the better. So I will be bidding for those. So you have to let me know where they're getting.
My stepfather is was a cyclist. He's 75 now. He's had a few health issues, and so he's more on the what's it called now? The stationary bike that everyone dies on. Yeah, he's on the Peloton.
Other makes of bikes are available.
Yes, that's true. But he used to be a big cycler, and I keep forgetting to tell him that we have this cycle. Look, I'm the guy who clearly doesn't share the affinity, although I wish I could, that the two of you and Lance have. So,
well, I'll tell you a quick story. So 2 weekends ago, I did the big charity bike ride for Children's Hospital here in Colorado. And Lee, if you ever get the opportunity to come out here and do it, it is unbelievable. It's
a friend of mine's done that, and he said it's just off the charts.
Yeah, it is insane. And like it's now the largest charity event for Children's Hospital in the United States, which is unbelievable. And so the team that I ride for here in Colorado is I would say 80% physicians, and there's a guy named John who runs the team we ride for, and we partner with a couple pro teams. And so he was the head of neuroscience at Children's Hospital, and he just retired. He was telling me this story about how about 15 years ago, Lance flew into Colorado to do some training. And because John's a huge cyclist, they went out and rode together. And Lance was on a very strict schedule. It was, you got to be here at this time. We're training at this time. You go for lunch at this time. So John's like, that schedule was to the minute. And John was with him the whole day until they got to the cancer ward.
Yeah.
And then it was basically Lance saying to his team, fuck the schedule. I'll stay on this unit for as long as I need to talk to whoever I need to. And that was during the height of his career. And so as Mike said, it doesn't matter what you thought about him during the time. Like, I think the one consistent was the battle for cancer. So we will post these. And, you know, I don't want to abuse the relationship I'm trying to build with him, but if we get other items that we want signed, I'm sure he'll do it. He's only about an hour from me drive, so I can always just drop these off too. But super excited that he's going to join us in this little charity that we have, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And also exciting is the fact that since the podcast started, we have another $250 of donations coming in. Thank you, Charlie, Warren, Curtis. Thank you, Henrik Feder. Thank you, Fredo, our very good friend Fredo from New Orleans, and Tanner from Carlisle, I believe, Pennsylvania, with very generous donations. They'll be in on all the prize draws, so that's exciting, and keep them coming. Again, the earlier the better, and we are over $1,000 now for the Pod-a-thon this far in our first official hour. So obviously, you know, we have Arsenal season getting ready to start, and it's probably the most excited I've seen the fan base for a season in maybe the last 10 or 15 years, and it's been the worst 4-season stretch over the last 2 or 3 decades. Lee, I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but as a pundit, as an ex-player, as a fan, less of a fan than your kids, as you claim. But I mean, how are you feeling, and how do you describe kind of what's going on around the fan base right now?
Well, I think when the pros, let's use Arteta's words for a minute, although I don't particularly like him that much, but let's go back to the process. And when he took over, it is his first job. He's learning on his feet. We all were expecting of him coming in and maybe being the next Pep, and that was never going to happen. But he's obviously been very influenced by Pep, and quite rightly so. So he's picked up his own stuff. He's trying to get his own ideas. So we're all giving him time, and he kept talking about the process. And then the club went on and joined hands with him and said to him, right, if this is what you want to do, then let's buy into this. So the club have got to take a lot of credit for, I mean, nothing's been achieved yet, but they've got to take a lot of credit for starting and continuing on that line based on this. It's a risky line to go down, signing young players, giving the kids a chance, but also when the new signings coming in, signing of that age, around 22, 23 years of age, being in the market for those type of players, not necessarily looking elsewhere for the old heads to come in and settle the ship a little bit. So it was risky. And I think we've had, as you pointed out, we've had 3 or 4 seasons now of kind of the expectation levels going up, the performances sometimes matching that and then falling away. Big games being lost in parts of the season that disappoints all of us, because we go just when we thought things were going to be okay, and then they lose a game and you think, I can't ever see him winning another match. That's all part of this period of time that we're going through. And I think why everybody's so excited is that he's now been given the funds to actually put the final bits of the puzzle together. And I think, I'm a massive Jesus fan before he signed. I've watched him a lot over the last few years, coming off the bench, playing in different positions. But I've always thought he's a He's a proper talented footballer, and he gets the opportunity. He will score a lot of goals. Didn't quite fit into Pep's plans, and so we've benefited from that. 25 years of age and winning the amount of titles for the amount of money is an absolute. I think it's probably at the moment, the signing of the season throughout the league. You look at it and you go, how have they pulled that off? And I think the relationship with Pep has obviously helped, and his relationship with the player. And Zinchenko as well, I think it's a genius signing. I think I've always liked him. I've always gone, in any other team he would play every week. Proper talented young boy who's been playing all sorts of positions. Saliba coming back, lots of things happening, and it all coming together, and everybody now, like all the fans do, and quite rightly so, you want to, even if you don't sign anybody or you sign a couple of players, you're not that, you still get up for the first few games of the season, because that's what we do. We're football fans. That's what we do. But there's a little bit more, there's a bit more tangible this time round, and I think the team looks. You don't look at the team now and go, "Where's the real weaknesses?" So that's a big plus. Could well all fall apart and not achieve. You look at the teams above them at the end of the season, and you go, "Are we going to sign players that can make us challenge for those?" And you say Liverpool, City, no, because they're so far ahead. Tottenham have been busy in the transfer market, and we can get a load of Tottenham fans on here and argue all day long as to whether we're any closer to each other or we're better than them. And time will tell on that. They're going to be strong this season. There's no doubt about that. But they're always a bit Spursy, so we've got that over them. And Chelsea are just freewheeling at the moment.
Yeah, that is the biggest wild card for me of the whole season is Chelsea. I mean, they could end up just steamrolling to a top two or title. I mean, if everything came together, but I don't see a plan. I don't see
they ain't going anywhere near the title. I can tell you that.
I mean, there's so much chemistry going on at certain clubs. Arsenal finally being one of them. And so much just random stuff going on at Chelsea and Manchester United, who still does not seem to have learned that they need to basically do. I mean, they're getting further and further behind us, in my opinion. Even though they're spending arguably more money, they're just not catching that they're digging the same crater that we dug 4 or 5 years ago, and is only now starting to come out of, in my opinion.
It's crazy to me that I don't know if this is true, but the Frankie de Jong rumors that he didn't want to join United because of how much of a circus it's turned into, whether or not that's true, it came from multiple news outlets. It wasn't just the same person reporting it. And I mean, for a club of that size, you think any phone call, someone's picking it up. And for a player of his caliber, he'd slot in there and be a world beater. And
that's been when the call comes with a large pay packet, and anyone takes that until you finally call the player who really just wants to be part of an effective and winning team, and is a bit disillusioned perhaps by being part of a circus where you lose 2 or 3 years of your career making a lot of money but winning nothing.
But it's gone on for so long with United now that is the case. Before, it didn't matter about the pay packet. There was always Man United could get virtually any player they wanted to sign, because the biggest club in the world tag was always dangling loosely around their necks, and any player would jump at a chance to sign for United, and that is simply not the case now. And that's that takes a lot of rebuilding. They've still got the name, they've still got the kudos. But there's no real foundations behind that right now, and that's going to take time. You're looking at 5-10 years before they rebuild all of that's been eroded away by bad signings, bad management from the top as well. And since Sir Alex left, in the last few years of Sir Alex and not been replenished throughout. at every level, then you end up being in a position where you've got so much work to do, and the game doesn't stop. The season starts in a few days' time, and you're back at it, and you have 2 or 3 results change everything. You have 2 or 3 bad results because you've not quite got it right, and then all of a sudden the crowd are bang. And
we've seen that as recently as last season. With us, with our own team. Some great questions from the chat so far. We're gonna dip into those in just a minute, but we want to make sure to cover some interesting things having to do with your primary job now, which is.
I have a good question for you.
Yeah, and I've got another one, and I'm sure they're probably.
Let me be the judge of whether it's good or not.
So obviously, and we've had our banter on here with Arlo White. He still blocked me on Twitter, and he started it. So, and that's all I'm going to say there, Mike. But in my opinion, Peter is, I think, the greatest commentator on football, world football. Because when I moved to America,
way to say that right before Ian Dark's getting ready to join us.
Well, no, hey, and I love Ian, but. For me, like Peter, when I moved to the States, they didn't show much football on TV, and you got Champions League in the evenings. I used to put it on. I remember in high school class because the teacher just didn't care, and then I'd mute the television.
You were beyond teachable.
He just gave it up. But for the first 15 minutes, you got to hear Peter. Lee, have you worked with him before? Are you excited? I mean, he's just a different level of excitement.
Yeah, I mean, let's deal with the Arlo bit first. We're all really sad to see him go. And whether he blocks you or not, he's probably got good taste. I don't know. I've not seen you really. I don't really deal with you.
I'll give you. So
I've only seen your head.
I made a comment once on Twitter about he said something. It was just over the top, and I was just in a
it was celebrating. It's sounding as though he was celebrating a top.
It was like a Spurs goal, and he responded very kindly, like, "I'm a Foxes supporter." So then I was like, okay. So then, like a week later, Leicester beat us, right? Yeah. And I'm not kidding you. It must have been within a minute of that final result. He tweeted me directly, like, "Are you okay, Pop It?" And I just wrote back, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I think the next result against Leicester again, and I didn't have any interaction with him. And then he responded again, and I was just friendly banter, and then he blocked me. I'm like,
he came after you pretty hard. I mean,
it's not like I bit or went back at him. It was just like I thought we were having friendly conversation. There was nothing, I invited him on this. I said, "Hey, why don't you come on and we can have a knees up, like just a good conversation." And then he blocked me.
Never tweet when you've been drinking. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that advice was for you, Andy. So I was going to ask, I mean, obviously when I found out that had changed, I immediately reached out to Peter, who's given us some time on the show before.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to essentially bow at his feet and say thank you. He respectably said, I don't really want to make a big value about it before I've gotten into the job.
No, well, that's him to a T. He's a hugely talented wordsmith, if you like. He knows the game inside out. The way he poetically describes things, he's probably second to none. I haven't finished with the Arlo bit yet. I don't want to just diss Arlo out. I want to say how brilliant it was.
Okay.
Work with Arlo, and we were very sad to see him go. And he's a brilliant commentator. We got on. Me and Graham certainly got on brilliantly with him. We had such a laugh over the last 9 years. Have been a hoot, and we were really sad to see him go. And we'll miss him in the Winnebago before. We'll miss him on the gantry. But
no more soup.
No more soup. And in sport, but certainly in broadcasting, we are all. It's certainly again in football. Your ship's passing in the night. Your best mates with 20 odd footballers 1 minute, and you get transferred to another club, and you never see or hear from the rest of them again. So broadcasting's a bit like that. A ship's passing in the night. Arlo's gone off to do other things, and there's a gap that needed filling with, and we've managed to get Peter Drury, he's a dream to work with. He's an absolute fantastic human being. Firstly, a lovely man. You can chat about anything to him. We have a laugh. I think you'll see that, or certainly hear that on the commentary, that you'll get the banter on the upstairs watching the games, because we are just football people, normal people, but into football, talking about what we're seeing. That's how we try to broadcast it, and I know he's hugely excited about it.
Does it take you a while to build that relationship with him? Is there a vibe, or is it just kind of free flowing? Do you do any pre-planning the last couple?
No, I mean, when you first work with a commentator, you kind of you do all your prep, but you're talking before you go on, and you get to know. But there's nothing like the test of when you're actually doing a game together. You can do a practice game, doesn't really work. You can watch a false game on a recorded thing. It's not really the same. It's when you're in the thick of it and things are happening where you've got to be sharing the responsibility of what's going on. You're each other's eyes. You've got each other's back in case somebody misses something. But I've worked with Peter quite a lot, and Graham has as well, for various broadcasters. And I the first time I worked with him, it was like I'd done 1,000 games. He was just, he leaves gaps when when it's your turn to speak, and we're respectful of him, because he's got, I think the commentators have got the toughest job. They're talking most of the time. They've got to get all the names right. They've got to get all the numbers. They've got to, and we're just kind of the colour guys who are filling in the supposedly expertise bit. But they have got to be so switched on with what's going on in the game. And if we hear a gap or we see a gap, we kind of jump in and say our bit. But there's an art to getting in and out as a colour guy. But the broadcaster that you're sitting next to, if he's a very generous person, which Peter and Arlo was as well, then you've got a great chance of being able to create a relationship. And he's a funny guy as well, so that'll come across too.
Is there someone that you want to work with in the broadcasting world that you haven't had the opportunity to work with?
As a commentator, it's a really good question, Andy. Well done.
Thanks.
No. I've worked.
You've just offended like 5 people out there who are like, "Why is he saying me?"
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I've worked with quite a few. I don't just remember. I mean,
have you worked with Derek? Have you worked with Derek? Oh, you work with him on FIFA, right?
Yeah, but I've worked with him as well on games.
Right.
But the thing you have to remember that most of my work here used to be studio. I was always studio. I was never co-coms. The co-coms was virtually always in NBC, and that's been going on for 9 years. So it's a long time. So I got the best of both worlds. I do studio here, co-coms in America. But now I switched to doing England comms here with ITV. So I left the studio basically. So if you think 9 years with Arlo and then most of the time in the studio, there's quite a lot of commentators probably out there that I haven't worked with. But, I've done Arlo for 9 years and Peter on and off here and there for different broadcasters. Clive Tilsley. I mean, there's so many out there that you kind of bump into along the way. And now I'm desperately trying to think of the ones I've left out so I don't get in trouble.
Well, we're not going to let you, we're not going to let you make up for that, because we're going to get some nasty letters, but that's okay. I've put
negative press is still good press, right, Mike?
That's my philosophy.
As long as they donate to our charity.
Lee, I've put a question for you in the private chat. If you can take a quick look at that, and I'll
Who, me?
Yes.
How do I do that?
On the right hand, just go to private chat if you can. You see that button? In the meantime, I'll vamp a little bit because the donations keep coming in. We're going to do the first prize draw. We're going to try to do these a little bit before the end of each hour. And just before the cutoff, we have another donation from the incredibly generous and lovely Mark Mertz, who I spent a lot of time with on the American tour, and a donation from Jalal Haji. So the first item that we're going to be giving away is, of course, a signed shirt from Lee Dixon. And
pinched another one off me.
I'm sorry?
You pinched another one off me.
It's the one that you showed us from the '89 game.
Oh, that one. Guys, you've had I can't. This thing is, I'm trying to type something back to you, and I'm really struggling. So anyway, I think I've done it.
I've got that, and thank you.
You should have just left your first answer in there.
I didn't leave it long enough. I should have left.
You should have. And then
I'm capable of carrying a podcast for half an hour by myself, but basically,
like that.
Here's the scoop. Ian Dark is meant to be our second guest at the top of the hour, and he was very gracious to indicate that he'd be joining us. But since yesterday's game that he called, I have not heard back from him yet, so I'm just not 100% sure that he'll be here. So if we can't have him, we'll have some extra time with Lee for sure.
He's a good commentator, Ian Dark. He's a good one.
He's the best. He's the best. So we got some. Let's do the draw. Do we want to find out who's going to win the Lee Dixon signed shirt, which of course will be packed expertly by Lee. Are you looking for the one that I wish I could give away?
Yeah.
This is a retro shirt from the Arsenal Direct site, which will be sent to Lee, signed by Lee, with a pretty good sense of humor as to whatever you'd like to have written on it within reason. Say no. Yeah. And that'll go out to you in November. So this is the first one, and everybody who has donated so far is in. Let me go ahead and share the screen. This is the least technologically pleasing portion of the show here, but we use a randomizer, and we'll do the drawing so that we do it live.
The randomizer.
Because we want to treat everyone with respect and integrity, because as I've said many times before, my middle name is Integrity, which is weird. Mike Integrity Feinberg. The winner, Mark Bacreeden. Mark has won a Lee Dixon signed shirt. Mark is a big listener of podcasts, including ours. We love Mark. We're very happy for Mark to have won this. And we are off and running with our 26 prizes. Let me just record that so I know who's won. And congratulations to Mark Bacreeden, who has won a Lee Dixon shirt. Now, we have some user questions for you. We want to make sure to get those answered. Andy, can you start off with some of the ones in the start area?
Our good friend Fredo. How crazy do you think things will get post World Cup? How many clubs how can clubs prepare to survive the impact of that tournament in the middle of their season? Great question, Fredo.
Good question. I think the answer to that is no. Nobody knows. I think there's going to be. Obviously, it will be disruptive. Primarily for me, it's not the players that are playing in the tournament; it's the players that are left behind. Because there's going to be, clubs and managers and coaches have got 6 weeks of nothingness to let the players try and get through the best they can. Obviously, giving them some sort of rest, but also they've got to train in that period of time. And the players that go away on international duty for the World Cup will be playing at a very intense level, albeit World Cup football tends to be a little bit slower than the Premier League. So a different type of football, but still playing and training and being in a concentrated state like they would be in the Premier League. So there's a difference in mentality from both sets of players, the ones that go and the ones that don't. I think it's going to be a really interesting, difficult time for all concerned. We don't know how the tournament's going to be. We closer to the time, we'll get an idea on more information will be coming in about the grounds and the stadium. I've kind of been in a position where leading up to the World Cup, I always do a certain amount of research about what's going on, the place that we're going to, Brazil or Russia, and I was talking to Nigel de Jong, who obviously played in that 2010 for the Netherlands in the final, and he plays out, or he's just retired actually, but he was playing out for a team in Qatar, and he lives in Qatar now. So I played golf with him a couple of days ago, and he was giving me a bit of a lowdown about what it's like over there and how different it is. And even he doesn't know when he lives there. He said it's going to be a real eye opener once the tournament starts. The weather is, and he told me an interesting thing actually. All the stadiums, he said, have got closed roofs and air conditioning. So in theory, they could have still played the tournament in the summer, but they've decided to play it in the winter in the middle of the season. But obviously that affects the fans if it's 40-odd degrees outside the stadium. So I think that was maybe a concern. But as far as the football's concerned, there's no issues with that. I don't know. Obviously, they're going to have to pick the time and place for training, what time they do the training, because it's still going to be warm, but obviously not 40-odd degrees. So it's, we can talk all night of the pros and cons of playing the tournament out there and how it came about, and we all know how that happened. But it's going to go ahead. So
they'll get knocked out early, and our boys come home. All right. Next question is from Gooner Boy Dazzer. What do you think of our new kits?
I didn't like last year's one. But I actually like, what's that?
Which one? The home one?
No, it wasn't last year. It was the one the really horrible kind of blood marble kind of.
Oh yeah, the Highbury one
thing. Oh no, not the home shirt
one.
Do you know that white one there? That was
yeah. Yeah.
That was the year before. I can tell you, I'm getting my kits all mixed up.
They come out in the season.
Yeah, but I do actually like the black one, and the pink one is good too. So I'm a fan. I like the home kit as well. So
not the traditionalist kind of, we should be red and white and then blue and yellow. I mean, I see a lot of mostly old men named Russell that are complaining about that.
No, do you know what? Yes, is the answer to that is yes. I think that's how we should play.
But I think so too.
I know that that's not going to happen, and so we have to give a little. They have to give a little one season, and then hopefully, it comes back. Adidas go. Do you know what? We're going to go back to a little bit more traditional next year. So I think that's how it should go. You should go modern, then a bit more retro, and then come back again, and then because you can't just stay in the past, and you can't just keep plowing on. You've got to have a bit of both.
No, and you just physically with your commercial obligations, you can't have just the cannon on the plain shirt anymore. You just can't.
Right. Well, it's like I was watching that Real Madrid Juventus game, and I like the Real kit, obviously made by Adidas, and our kits were very similar. And I was thinking like they do kind of fit a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Like Puma does the same across all the clubs. All right, next question from Dublin Gooner. What are your thoughts on Ben White at right back?
Well, he's a good footballer.
I think you've answered the question.
He's a good footballer. I think Ben's still got lots to learn defensively, both as a centre back and a right back. I'm a little bit, I'm not. I quite like him on the ball when he's at centre half. I'm not so keen on when he's at the ball at right back. It's a different set of passes that you need to be able to have in your front of your brain when you're right back to a centre half. They're different balls that you're playing. So if he's going to, Tomiyasu's obviously made of biscuits and he keeps breaking. So we need to try and fix him because he's started off.
You got the first bell of the 27 hours.
Let me ask you this then, Lee. Sorry to interrupt, but it might help. So who would you rather fill in for Tomiyasu after, if he is hurt, would you prefer Cedric, White, or Maitland-Niles and keep him? Because it sounds like we're trying to shift him on, which I think is wrong. But who would you rather play?
Or do we need to bring someone completely different in?
Well, no, I think Ben White is adequate. You can play away you can change. You don't have to just play a player who you don't get the things you get from Tomiyasu, and you can play him and make do. You can change. You can be a lesser player or a different player, and it's what goes on in front. So you got to be able to adapt in front. If, say, I was playing every week, which I more or less did because I very rarely got injured, and Ray Parlour was in front of me every week, and we had a set way of playing, and you just go, well, they play every week, so just let it go. Oh, Lee's got injured, so you go, oh, what are we going to do now? So we play, I don't know, Andy Linnigan or something goes and plays right back for a game. Then you adapt it. You don't just play like me and Ray would play. Ray knows he's not going to get Andy Linnigan overlapping him, so he adapts his game. So you have to adapt all over the pitch to people that are playing in a different way. So I think playing Ben is fine, and he's an intelligent boy. He will get better and better in any position he plays as he gets more experience. So it looks like Tomiyasu, a bit like Tierney on the other side have come from a slightly different mould of fullbacks than I used to, and Nigel, and we never really got injured, so it's something we have to cope with, and it's not ideal because it's become an even more important position, fullback, even more so than I played, but it is a position that's very important on the pitch. So if you keep chopping and changing your fullbacks all the time, it's not ideal.
Now, Mike, I know you said you wanted to get something out of the way, but this does kind of bridge to this next question. Would that thought process, Lee, of what you just said, if you were a youth in today and you were kind of coming up, would you still want to play in that position with all the changes that were made?
I'm just trying to read the question. Would Lee still pick right back? Yeah, 100%. So right back's best position on the pitch. It's just the best because it's got the coolest number 2, and you can affect it, especially now. If you're playing now, you kind of. When me and Nigel played, the one reason why you wouldn't pick playing right back or left back is we used to get paid the least in the team. Yeah. Now the fullbacks get paid one of the most. So it's like that's the one tick of the box that you go, oh, I remember when I probably told you this story, but when Arsene came and saw mine and Nigel's wages, he got us in the office and basically doubled our pay overnight and said, I'm sorry. He apologized for the amount of money they were paying us. So
he compensated you for the trauma of the car incident, the in the car with George Graham. I do want to make sure that we get this because I started off well last year and then I completely tailed off and I ended up not getting what I wanted. I want to get some info from you on your Premier League predictions and then we can go ahead and look at it during next year's show and see how we all did. So if you would, Lee, your top 4, your bottom 3, and some wacky prediction that, and it can be anything having to do with football. It doesn't have to be Arsenal. Some wacky prediction that people would raise their eyebrows at, but that you think will happen this year.
Oh, God. Right.
The extra pay packet is in the mail, by the way.
Yeah. Top 4, I would go in order. You want them in order?
If you can.
I'm going to go Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of third place Arsenals, which we
didn't we're in fourth.
We didn't see any other than one person who picked us to win the league and Spurs to get relegated.
Should have put Spurs in my relegations.
So the 3 relegated teams in no particular order.
Oh God, I think Norwich.
They were relegated. That's the easiest.
No, I meant they're going to go down again.
Oh, okay.
Relegated.
Do you think Everton are on the in the bottom?
That's going to be the in vogue pick. I've picked them.
I think Fulham will go down. I think Everton are one of those. Oh God, he's got such a lot of work to do there.
Yeah.
And
is he the right man to do it?
Well, we don't know that because we're still. I love Frank. I think he's great. I get on really well with him, but I still don't know. I think he's so football switched on, but I don't know. I don't know yet whether that's good. Is it gone dark in here all of a sudden?
It has.
Shall I put a light on?
I think that happened the first time we podcasted with you. I think we could no longer see you by the end of the podcast.
Oh, wrong light. Hang on. Is that bad? Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
you look like Casper the Friendly Ghost for a second because it was all dark and then your white shirt.
Dark really quick.
You did, didn't it? I've just looked outside and it virtually.
That's a typical summer English. It's just like.
Yeah.
That's
why I don't want to move back, Mike.
I don't know because you don't want to be English no more. All right, so Fulham's going down, back down. Bournemouth and Forest, the other promoted teams.
I think Forest will be all right, but I'm getting Bournemouth down and Everton.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I almost did that exact same three. Anything that you think off the top of your head is going to surprise people this season?
Anything that's going to surprise people, I would say
Arlo coming back to try to get his job back halfway through.
That's not going to happen.
I think he's been handsomely compensated.
I'm going to go. Oh, it's a big one. It's a big call.
You're not expected to get this right. You just look like an absolute genius if you pull it up.
Okay, I'm going to go. Brentford finished in the top 8.
Wow.
Okay.
How many goals do you think Haaland's going to score?
74.
All against the 3 relegated.
Yeah. Is that in the second half of the season in all competitions or? Did you get the Community Shield over there? Yeah.
The goal where he was kind of the shot where he was falling backwards was just in. The guy's insane.
Yeah.
I think Football Ramble put it best. They were talking about him, and one of the guys said he is Godzilla, and the bottom of the table is Japan, and he's just going to destroy all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so back to thanks, Lee, for that. Back to the questions. We have one from the very aptly named Jacob Feinberg, lovely young man. He's the only one of our listeners who I actually love. Lee, good to see you again, and I have a question for you. What would you rate our transfer window as of now, and what do you think could be the final piece to the puzzle?
Why did you cut off help? I'm stuck in the basement. He won't let me see the day of life.
He told me he's going to the gym because he is getting buff so that when he gets to uni, you know what he's going to get.
He's going to be,
Hey, Jake, before Lee answers that question, don't stop watching WWE. That'll help in your persuasion.
He stopped months ago. I have not stopped, but he's stopped. Sorry, Lee.
What was the question? Oh, right. I think it's been good so far. I think I've talked about the signings, and I think the team's taking shape. I'm still, and I say this. I hear myself saying it every season. Partey made a biscuits again. He's another one. And my friend Granite. If there are 2, midfield players for a whole season, then I think that's an area that could cost us. So
it's strong at the back, kind of unbelievable at the front, and then you see a weakness kind of bridging the two together. That's been my concern as well.
And the thing is with Grant, he's got a lot of pluses, but he's just at times he can be a liability, and I don't trust Partey's fitness, so I don't trust his body. So what happens if they get injured for a long period of time, which is every chance that, or Granite gets himself sent off for something stupid, and so that's an area that I think we could still strengthen him.
I think that was a comment that was made on Andy's wedding night by his wife, which is, I don't trust your body. I don't know under what circumstances, but
a question about not my body, but what you just mentioned. So has a player ever come back to you, Lee, after you've said something on a televised match, or like do you ever have to bite your tongue? I mean, you're very honest and open, right? And I think criticism for any player is out there, but has anyone ever come back to you like, why'd you say that? Or I disagree with you, or have you heard of that from your colleagues? I've always been curious.
Andy does one podcast a year and brings the good questions. That's why he's allowed back every once.
And don't answer no.
I used to, because when I was playing, all players watch Match of the Day. It doesn't, on BBC at night. Because you come back from traveling away game, you get back around when it comes on. You go out for dinner with your wife. If you're playing a home game, you get back to virtually when it's coming on. So you end up watching it all the time. And Alan Hansen used to, well respected. A very good friend of mine now. He wasn't when I was playing, but we play a lot of golf together now, and we're good mates. And I worked with him for the BBC for about 8 years, so we became good mates on Match of the Day. Slagging other players off. But whenever he used to slag me off, or not slag me off, whenever he used to say, Dixon did this, and I used to get really wound up. I don't know why. I think it's because he was such a good defender and a good player. And I played against him. Obviously, he didn't do too good in '89 because we just, managed to get past him. So I must get a ding on the bell for that. I don't know what. Yeah,
that's not really how the bell works.
Mike.
I'll just point to the proof.
I don't even know what that bell's for, but it's just anyway.
It's if you say an Englishism.
Like if you said that Alan Hansen that day was in the descendancy, then you get the bell. It's
see.
But I'll give a bell to Lee Dixon anytime he wants the bell. I mean, that's my policy.
I think just mentioning Alan Hansen in a footballing sense should get a bell.
It should.
Like when I first met you and I called you a bell end, it didn't mean you should go buy a bell.
I didn't buy it. I went to a hotel and I took it.
I thought you were talking to me then. No. That's a bit harsh.
No wonder Arlo blocked you.
Yeah, this is why Arlo blocked me.
He's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. And I'm like, that's not how I remember it. But
offensive to me is if I call someone the C word. Anything below that's a compliment.
Nobody's. I've had a few blanks of players that I've been in the company of who've not particularly been that friendly. But I just put that down to, do you know what, mate? I ain't slagging you off. I'm just saying what I see. I'm not, it's not personal. Got a little bit personal with Xhaka at times. Not personal with him, but I felt as if I was getting a little bit too, oh my God, he's terrible. And I kind of went into this and I had to step back out of it and go, right, actually. And I reassessed him. I reassessed my assessment of him. And that's, and I was pat myself on the back because I went, yeah, that's what you should do because that's your job. Your job is to say what you see and give your opinion and be insightful. It's not to have a rant about Xhaka every time I saw him play because I just see all his bad stuff. And now I'm open-minded because I'm an evolving human being, and I see all his good stuff now. So.
Oh, sorry. And I have a follow-up because I'm the journalist of the year. So has it ever, sorry, and if you mentioned this before, have you ever heard or received criticism about yourself in that public eye and then actually self-reflected and went, you know what, actually I could do that to my game? Or
I mean football or commentating?
Football. When you were a player, did you ever hear someone in the media say something to you, and probably an ex-player, right, where you're like, actually, yeah, I could do that better?
Yeah, well, for instance, when Alan Hansen said something on Match of the Day, and I picked the remote control up and threw it at the TV, when I put the batteries back in and fixed it again, I had a moment of self-reflection and went, do you know what? He's right. And I actually learned something from that moment. So, yeah, I used to do that all the time. I used to get defensive because I'm quite a defensive character. I felt as if playing football all my life, I've got to be that way. And I don't mean that in a pun way, being defensive because I'm a defender. I just mean protect myself from the outside world because I'm my own biggest critic. So I don't need you slagging me off because I'm slagging myself off over it. Somebody slagged me off and I kind of agreed. I go, no, yeah. And then I go, yeah, you're right. But I'm older now, and when people criticize me now, I mean, I get absolute pelters on Twitter. If I was to go on Twitter every week and listen to what people say about my commentating, I would never do it ever again. I mean, it's the minority, but if you, as you know, you can go on Twitter and find anything you want. You know, if you look for all your good bits, then you feel great. If you just look for the generic stuff, you don't see a lot. But if you look for the bad stuff, it's there. Yeah. So, you know what? If people, the only people I've got to prove anything to when doing anything, and which is the same playing football, is I had two people, and it was George Graham and my dad. Those were the teams when I was playing. And then now it's the boss of NBC, the boss of ITV. Because if they are happy, then that's fine. And we can chat, whoever else I upset along the way or disagree with, we can chat about it. But the most important people are the ones who are employing you and also, your immediate family. But I don't have to answer to them because they know that I'm trying to do my best job.
Well, and I think for, like if you look at the Neville commentate, like color, I hated him as a player, but listening to him on TV, he is just one of the best. And I'm sure people say the same about you. They didn't like you as a player because you were so good and you beat their teams, but now they hear you on television. You're so good at that craft. You probably have gained a whole new support from supporters who didn't like you 20 years ago because you just used to work the teams. And, it's funny to me, like you see someone like Mikey Herz, who was a good player. He wasn't a great player, but you put him on television and he is just something else. I mean, he's great, and I loved how he just goes after Keno.
I'm going to throw it out there. What happens when people get sick of his laugh?
People describe things as infectious because they infect you, and that's not normally
Well, speaking of infectious, sorry, you've harped on Xhaka, and it's clear that you just might put this as a headliner. Dixon hates Xhaka. Yeah. What? No,
I don't want to.
No. I'm kidding. But genuinely, Lee, what is your opinion on Xhaka? Like, there's so many managers that he's played under, and he seemingly is the first name on the team sheet for every manager. And it doesn't matter what transfer windows pass, no player has come in to replace him. What do you think is the cause of that? Because as you said, I think everyone who's an Arsenal supporter, they love him and they hate him at the same time because he is a liability on the pitch. So why do you think all these managers just fall head over heels for him?
Well, I think he's very he's a good pro. He's good trainer. He's good around the dressing room. He's a good player. He is. He's a very good player. In my book, my take on him is he's a better international footballer than he is a Premier League footballer because the game's slower. When he's had 1 million caps for his country.
A lot of guys like that. Pogba, similarly.
And he's a great passer of the ball. I think managers put him in there because I'm going to say something now that I'm contradicting myself. He's reliable because he's not very quick. He doesn't get about the pitch, but he's intelligent, and he will, to a certain point, he will do a job for you that is a needed job that's not that glamorous. He'll fill in it. And the way we play with bombing on Tierney, he plays, he fills in that left back role, wanders over there. It's a natural thing for him to do. So I don't necessarily think it's his. I don't put any blame on him. I just go, he's doing the best he can, and he's a bloody good player. But if we are gonna win, I don't care about finishing third. I don't care about finishing second, to be honest with you. All I'm bothered about is how do we get to that number one spot? And you do not win the league with Xhaka as your holding midfield player to win the league. So that's where I am with him at the moment. There's no one better at the club doing that job than he is. And Arteta is building a team around him, really. You have to say everything's changing apart from him and Partey are the two. That headline's not right that I think Xhaka's no good. I think he's a very good player. But
you have to trade your Journalist of the Year thing back now for even suggesting.
Is that it on the wall? Is that it on the wall there? That certificate. You need to take it down.
Yeah.
My Robert Perez kick fell, and I just realized live on camera that it's all wonky. So I got to get that done.
He was a bit wonky as well. He had a wonky shoulder. So.
So one more user question and then a statement, which I think is a good way to kind of finish off your extended hour. By the way, we are now in hour 2 of the Pod-a-thon. Thank you, Lee, for helping us stay. As I suspected, Ian Dark is presumably still partying with the women, with the 3 lionesses.
Can I just have a big shout out for the lionesses, by the way? I went to the game at Brighton against Spain. It was brilliant. I was supposed to go to the final, but I couldn't go because obviously my daughter was giving birth to a baby and I wanted to be nearby, so I didn't go. But my son is the strength and conditioning coach for the Lionesses. Oh, he's put it. Yay!
Nice. So is he down on the pitch then with him?
He was, yeah. So he's got as he quite rightly said, he's got a World Cup winners medal with the under-17s in England, and now he's got a Euros medal with the girls, and I haven't got any. So he points that out to me all of the time.
It's never too late, Lee. It is never too late.
Well done, Lionesses.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I was very excited. I mean, I've been supporting England as much as I can since 1990, and despite the confused looks and the hatred from many of my American brethren, but happy to finally see it come home. So, question from Tired Gunnersaurus, who I can verify, having spent a lot of time with Gunnersaurus in the States over the past 2 weeks, he ought to be tired.
Yeah.
Lee, have you ever seen a captain like Tony Adams since ? And I've heard you tell stories about certain. Well, I'll tell the story if you don't. But the answer to the question: have you ever seen a captain like Tony Adams?
Well, I was with him a long time, so there wasn't many opportunities for anybody else to get.
People always talk about like Victor Company, for example. I wouldn't know enough about that, but I mean, Victor Company is always mentioned as kind of this otherworldly leader and captain of a football team. Just even from afar, I mean, who would you say, if you haven't, would kind of
those players are all cut from the same cloth. But I think it's very difficult to compare because most of the captains that I played with, I didn't, Tony wasn't a captain to me on the pitch. He didn't play and I go, oh, look at him, he's my captain, because I was doing the same thing. I was giving everything I got. And your captain goes beyond what the 90 minutes that you do. It goes into the dressing room. And I don't know what Vincent Kompany's like in the dressing room. So I'd be speculating if I said, can you compare captains? Until you are actually living, eating, sleeping, waking up, training with those people behind the scenes, you don't know what their true captaincy is. Because basically, Tony led us out on the pitch, played with, give everything he got on the pitch, like the rest of us, tossed the coin and got it wrong most of the time. He hardly ever won a toss, Tony, and picked the trophies up at the end. So it's like, well, I could have done that. I could run about just as much as him and fly into tackles and toss a coin. And so his brilliance as a captain went beyond what he did on the pitch. So, and I can't share those experiences with other captains because I wasn't with them. So his leadership qualities went way beyond the 90 minutes.
Imagine an Arsenal player playing as long as you did for Arsenal in this current age, where instead of playing for, maybe one or two or three captains over the course of your career, one of them being primary, you've played for like 90 of them who have all left and or been injured. I mean, it's just, we could do another hour on the captaincy of Arsenal Football Club, which I don't want to get into now, but a lot of people saying John Terry, again, not equalizing, but, people who were known for their leadership. Rio Ferdinand, I would pull out. Roy Keane. These are the big names, but and Leo Williamson.
Absolutely.
That's a great call.
Good shout, Stephen.
Yeah. So I will ask also one more question that came in from Danny, which is, are you surprised that of the George Graham days, the only player who has had a son play football at a decent level is Super Kevin Campbell's son, Tyrese? You could possibly throw in Sean Wright Phillips, I think, into that, but and his grandson is now playing with Tyrese at Stoke, Ian Wright's grandson, which is crazy. Talk about grandchildren.
I'm just going through the team in my head now of like players. Yeah, well, it's bloody hard. You know what? It's bloody hard to be a pro. When I was playing, but it's even harder now to break through into. You look at our sons, and my son didn't really play after he was about 10 or 11 because he didn't like the pressure that everybody put him under. So he stopped playing and he went off and did other sports. And he's now, as I said, he's strength and conditioning coach in the game. But he as a player, he didn't really play much. So
didn't Ian Wright have two kids who went on? Didn't he?
Who?
Ian Wright.
Well, you had Sean Wright Phillips and
Bradley Phillips, right?
Bradley Wright Phillips, yeah, that's true. So if you add the two of them together,
Campbell's son, so you got 3 out of 11.
I think what we're learning here is that Danny, the GFP, needs to put the biscuits down and do some more research before asking Lee Dixon a question.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just show up halfway through the first hour and a half of the show.
That was what called a willy-nilly question.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
it's made yourself and us look like real pricks, Daddy. Thanks.
and I lost the comment that I was going to do. It was about here it is, and this is where this is the go home question right here, from Olivier. Former Arsenal superstar. Lee said something last year about what he remembers of games, and it was how loud were the fans. That stuck with me. Not the win, not the goals or the money, but the fans. We have responsibilities. Agree?
100%. Yeah, no game without the fans. We saw that in lockdown. It was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
We kept it going because we kept football going because we had to, because it was going to be the start up for the morale of the country again, or certainly in England. And so, but playing behind closed doors was absolutely torturous. And as soon as the fans came back, the game reignited, and thankfully we're allowed to be in the games again.
Would you have preferred? Now, obviously in a real world environment with TV money and all of that, the impact would have been dreadful. But would you have preferred they just shut the season down, kind of like baseball did for a work stoppage? Different situation, but. Could they have done that? Would it have just purified the sport more? Or
no, I think it was the right thing to at the time. I thought we should have stopped, and then on reflection, I think it was the best thing that we started up again, because they did. You could feel the lift here. I don't know what it was like in the States, but you could feel when football started again. Even though it was just horrible to broadcast. It was just. You kind of got used to it after a bit. The good thing was you could get home really quickly because there was no fans. You'd be back home in half an hour from the Emirates. But that was the only good thing. It was the travelling. But I think it was the right thing to do at the time, and slowly integrate the fans back in. And now hopefully we've got a bit of a grip on this COVID thing, although it's still around.
I've got it right now.
Have you?
Yeah, I brought it home from Florida with me. Who would have expected that? I was in Orlando hugging millions of people and watching Arsenal and drinking and all of that. And shockingly, I came home and tested positive for COVID. But I'm on the tail end of it, and I'm ready. I'm ready for this 27 hours. So, Lee, you have about 25 and a half more hours. No. Thank you, Granddad Lee from Darren, our legend. Thank you, Mike, for having Lee on again. Much love to you and the family, and little George to your family
congratulations.
Too. Lee, thank you so much for joining us for staying long. You are a gentleman, a scholar, an evolving human being, and I like to. You don't have to call me a friend, but I like to consider you a friend because
I won't.
Someone, well, I don't want to bring your level down. I'm just trying to bring my level up, and but you have acted like a friend in helping.
Give me a high five.
No, the other way, you idiot. No. Jesus.
All right, so congratulations to Mark Bacreeden for winning the Lee Dixon shirt. And we encourage you to go over. It looks like synchronized swimming now.
But we can't do it at the same time. Hang on,
Can we all do it together?
I just do this.
And this is where we hit rock bottom.
This is the strangest, weirdest thing that Lee Dixon has ever been involved in. I wish I could say the same for ourselves. Owen's backstage just laughing his ass off. We're gonna let you go. Please remember, go to goonersvcancer.com. We've got steady stream of donations coming in, which is great. I believe that at the end of the first segment now we have raised $1,300, well on our way to trying to eclipse the 5,000 from last year, and we'll have another prize draw at 10 p.m. So Lee, anything else that you want to say to the Gooner public?
No, I just want to say stay positive and enjoy the process. I hate that word.
Well, I appreciate it.
And obviously, I see you all on NBC because the first game is
Friday.
Oh, I will be asking the pub, because I will probably be at the pub watching it on Friday. I will be asking the pub to crank up the volume, because normally I wouldn't really necessarily care one way or the other, but we need to hear you and Peter. Is it just you and Peter, or is it you, Peter, and
everyone's coming over this weekend, so the whole crew are in the UK. So
okay,
we've got a 3-man booth Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm interviewing Patrick on Thursday as well. So I'm gonna put him under the microscope.
I would just prefer that you put him under. Not because I have anything against the guy, but just for 24 hours. So
Lee, if you need any world-class questions drafted, you could just
you're
let
my
me
man.
know and I'll send them over.
Yeah, you know where to reach us.
Man.
There's a signed Lee Lance Armstrong jersey in it for you. Thank you, Lee. Take care.
See you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Man,
we roll. We keep going.
Am I staying on with you for this hour?
You aren't, but you can if you want to.
Can I fill in for Ian Dark?
The Ian Dark segment is over. It was filled by Lee Dixon.